How's it, guys? Welcome back to the car scene and welcome to the stunning Volvo XC90. This particular model is the Inscription all-wheel drive D5. I'll get into all of the specifics just now, but you're probably wondering why I have my phone in my hand. I don't usually do this, but I have a list of all the standard and optional features that this Volvo has. Now, the list is quite comprehensive, so I will take you through a few, but let's get into pricing first. As standard, this XC90 starts at 1.1, and already then it is an extremely good value proposition. So much so, I really don't want to give it back. So somebody tell Volvo I'm keeping their XC90. How good does it look next to the lake over here? But anyway, let's get into it. This particular one costs just over 1.2 million at 1.269. It sounds like a lot, but when I tell you the options that this car has fitted, I want you to personally go and compare it to its German counterparts. Because even at full spec, some of them will not have these features. Okay, as standard, I'll take you through a few because there's a lot. I'll leave a link below so you can see this car's entire spec, okay? But let me just take you through a few. Options, we have IntelliSafe Assist, which basically brakes the car itself. Road sign information display, which will look at the road signs and give you what the speed limit is. It even shouts at you when you go through stop signs and you don't brake. A little bit annoying, but I guess Volvo is all about safety. It's okay, I'm sure you can turn it off, I just don't know how to do it. You have Volvo On Call. Basically, Volvo On Call, you push a button and it connects you to someone on the other side of a telephone. You don't know where to go eat, or you're lost. Volvo On Call will help you. Somebody will tell you where you are and where to go. Or you want a little bit of information about the car, like the one time I called and the guy told me the sunroof was closed and the windows were open, and I kind of thought, I don't know why I would need to know that, but it's cool either way. It also gives you an app. Now, some of you have seen it on my Instagram. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link to the Instagram down below. Just click on the Volvo highlight and you can check it out. Basically, from an app on your phone, you can start the car. It is really, really cool, quite gimmicky, but awesome. You can also adjust temperature, you can lock the doors, unlock the doors, even honk the horn and make the lights go off, which is always fun when you're trying to prank people who are standing next to it. I didn't do that. Not at all, that's childish. What else? Power seats, park assist, full LED lights, and then there's also adaptive cruise control with pilot assist. Now that is really important because in Mercedes especially, you get that whole Distronic Plus system. I don't really know about BMWs, but that's standard. This car will drive itself as standard. Basically, it allows you just to take your hands off the steering wheel, off the pedals, and it'll just go about its business. Occasionally, you do have to touch the steering wheel just to let it know you're still there and you haven't fallen asleep, which is standard. I mean, you have to do that in Teslas as well. But in traffic, it will actually drive itself and you won't have to intervene. It just takes the tediousness out of it. I, for one, really, really like that feature, and it's something I want to say I can nearly not live without it, because I'm just hoping when I hop back into my Polo, I'm just going to be like, right, go ahead, drive yourself, but it's obviously not going to happen. Let me take you through the optional extras. Okay, and now you're looking at adding 100,000 Rand onto the base price for these optional extras, which are well worth it, and it still undercuts its German rivals. That is what I just can't believe. Okay, options, we have head-up display, 360 camera, Bowers and Wilkins sound system, which is it's music to your ears. Excuse the bad pun, but it is literally the most amazing thing I have ever experienced in my life. It's to the point where now I'll never ever purchase a car with just a standard sound system. It is the best thing ever. And then we also have massaging seats, heated steering wheel, blind spot, keyless entry, and obviously your smartphone integration, Apple CarPlay and whatnot. Then you have the luxury pack and a whole lot of single options, which they're pretty cool, but it's neither here or there, they're just necessities. So you basically know what you're getting for the money now at 1.26 million Rand. I'll let you guys decide if it's worth it at the end of this review. The design of the XC90 is unlike any other SUV on the road. It has beautiful swooping lines, a very sleek design, and one thing that characterizes it and sets it apart from most SUVs in its category are those headlights. They've kind of become synonymous with modern Volvos these days. By far my favorite exterior feature on the car. Now, if you're a little bit worried about having a 2-litre turbo diesel engine in such a big car, I don't blame you. But Volvo thought of this, and they offer a T8. Basically what that means is that you are getting 300 kilowatts, 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds, and a fuel consumption figure of 2.1 liters per 100. How do they do that? Basically what that means is you're getting a supercharger, a turbocharger, and mild hybrid assist. I think that's probably the pick of the range. I haven't driven it, but from what I hear, it's quite a ballistic missile. Okay, so you guys might notice it is a new day, hence the new shirt. And I want to talk a little bit about the technology and the driving experience. But before I do that, I want to cover 3 things that I really don't like about this XC90. The first is how much piano black there is. I really don't understand what the trend of piano black is these days with manufacturers, but it even goes so far as the steering wheel buttons, like the controllers on the steering wheel, are piano black. And that annoys me so much. The first day I got the car, I went for a drive and, I left the car. And when I came back to the car, I looked at the steering wheel and I thought, oh my word, I am one disgusting human being. It was so grubby and, I don't like it. And again with the infotainment screen, the surrounds around the aircon vents and everything, it's all piano black, and it's stuff you touch, when you go and adjust the aircon, you're going to touch the piano black. Even the screen, it gathers fingerprints like nobody's business. And also down here by the center console, by the gearbox, there's piano black. It's just so much piano black. Not only that, I'm pretty sure it scratches quite easily in the long run. So if I were buying an XC90, I would either get wrapped in some kind of other material, if that's possible, or I would probably get some kind of anti-fingerprint coating for it, and then that would be all the issues solved. So that is an issue that can be solved quite easily, I'm sure. The second thing that I really don't like about the XC90 are the rear seats. We have the 2020 6-seater variant of the XC90 on test, and I don't know if you can see behind me over there, but you can see straight into the boot, and that's because there's only 2 seats at the back. Now you would think that there would be an armrest, but there isn't. For some unknown reason, Volvo decided not to include an armrest at the back. I don't know why. So it's literally just a rear bench delete. That middle seat has just been deleted straight away. It's just, to me, it makes no sense. Like, at least include an armrest to incentivize me. Otherwise, why not just fold the rear bench down and then you've got 2 seats and an armrest. But that being said, if you do sit at the back outermost seats, then there is space for you to put your feet because it's just one floor. So maybe that's the reason, I don't know. It's also not that hard to get into the back seats, and once you're sitting there, it is quite comfortable. And that brings me to the third thing that I really don't like about the XC90, and it's kind of 2 things bundled up in one. This central infotainment screen controls a lot of things, like an outrageous amount of things, including the aircon. So I'm going to count with you guys how many taps it is to control the aircon in this car. 1, 2, 3, and 4 to close it. Why? It's so technologically focused to the point where it's so cool, but to the point where it's like, why? There's this huge volume knob here and these massive skip track buttons. You even open the glove box through a button. Why did there need to be a button to open a glove box? Like, I just don't get it. You could have put all your aircon controls here and it would have been so much easier to navigate rather than going through this big screen. It can be a pain sometimes. And then there's kind of like another thing bundled up in there, and it's your seating adjustment. These seating adjustments are not the easiest to use. The back and forward and reclining is all good. But then you have this like little like knob over here which you need to like cycle through a whole lot of things. The thigh support, I don't know what you call it, the thigh support thing in the seat is electrically controlled. I think someone needs to tell Volvo that some things can be manual, because it would have been so much easier just to reach underneath, pull a lever and go. This literally took me 2 hours to figure out, and then I was like, oh, I get it. You have to go through the screen, and it's like, I'll tell you guys now how many taps. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have to like adjust it with these buttons. And then it adjusts. Okay, now we all know that Volvo is built around safety. In fact, Volvo's middle name is safety. So naturally there are a lot of safety features. One such safety feature that comes as standard is autonomous braking, when it detects cars, large animals, or even people walking across the street. If the car senses you are going to have a prang, it'll automatically brake. It's just one of those things that it does. And then another thing is, when you are approaching a car and you look away to change lanes and the car is like, you're not seeing the car in front, it'll start beeping and bonging and the heads-up display will flash. The heads-up display of which is optional, but it will flash a logo to tell you, yo, it's time to brake now. And I'm going to take you through a lot of the other safety features that come on offer. We have active cornering lights, which bends the lights around the corner as you turn. I can't live without that anymore. It is really, really cool. Then we have active bending lights. Sorry, the active bending lights shine around the corner. The active cornering lights work at low speeds. When you turn the wheel, another light comes on and shines wherever you've turned the wheel. But the bending lights take you around the corner. We then have lane keeping aid, which I've turned off. But automatically, the car will try and keep you in lane. So if you're going to veer off lane, it'll push you back into your lane. And on our South African roads where there's a few uneven markings, where they've repaired the tar, it's shiny, the car can get a little bit confused and randomly just fight you while you're driving and push you somewhere where you don't really want to be. Then we have distance alert, which we've covered. That's when you're a little bit too close to the vehicle in front of you and it just gives you a warning like, yo, back off. We have roadside information, which is really cool. So what that does is it recognizes all of the traffic signs and it shows you in your heads-up display, and it shows you here in your central screen. It tells you the speed limit as long as it senses the sign. And then when you're approaching schools, it'll even give you that little sign where there's children crossing the road. That is really cool. I like that. Especially when you're driving on a long road and you think to yourself, I wonder what the speed limit is here. So you'll always know. That's quite nice. And then you have obviously blind spot assistance, which will let you know when it's safe for you to turn into the next lane. And cross traffic alert. Now this is really cool because my VW Polo has it, and the first time it activated I got the fright of my life because it makes such a noise. My driveway is quite concealed, so when you reverse you don't really see what's coming from other side of the road until the car's arse is sticking halfway into the road. So this helps you. This basically, it's your eyes. It sees the sides of the road for you, and when it sees that there's a car oncoming, it'll start going blah, blah, blah. Literally word for word, that's the sound it makes. So that's really cool. The one time I even got it to brake, and it brakes a lot more, a lot further up the driveway than my Polo does. My Polo is kind of like at the last second, but this thing braked when the car was like far down, and I was sort of like, really? I saw it by that time. But yeah, so that's all the safety systems. And then we have technology. And this car is loaded with it. Loaded. Of course, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto as standard. That is just, it's a must-have. Then you have Google Local Search. I have never in my life. And when I got into the XC90, I looked at this and I was like, I can talk to Google. I can talk to Google on the XC90. It's just really cool. So obviously you can ask it whether, how long it'll take you to get to a certain destination, to call a restaurant for you, all of this stuff. It just will work so seamlessly and nicely. You've got TuneIn, which is already loaded. You've got Spotify, you've got weather, and something called Glimpse. I don't understand what Glimpse is. If you guys know what it is, let me know. And then of course navigation is standard as well, and when you are navigating it will show you your maps in your digital display cluster here. So that is very, very nice. And the big talking point in this car, it's quite an expensive option, but it is one that I urge all of you to tick. It is the Bowers & Wilkins sound system. My word, my ears have been to heaven. This is the most amazing sound system I have ever heard in my life. Just hands down. And in it, you've got an option to configure it as a studio, which I find is best for like sort of music that doesn't replicate like authentic instruments, if that makes sense. like instrumental music, you'll put it on concert hall, and what concert hall does is it mimics the acoustics of the Gothenburg concert hall. That is really, really awesome, and it shows. It does show. So if I were any of you guys, I would urge you, get into a Volvo XC90 with Bowers and Wilkins and just sit, because some days I arrive home and I just park off and I sit, because it is that good. And that brings us into how the Volvo XC90 drives. And this was surprising for me. I've driven quite a few luxury SUVs, and a lot of people were asking me, like, they had this perception that the XC90, you know, it's just not on par with its German rivals. It's in a different segment, even though it's in the same segment. And I think I looked a little bit too deep into that, because it's not. It is on par with its German rivals. On the value for money front, it's a bargain. It really is. But this car has the D5, which is the diesel engine, the 2-litre diesel. Yes, the likes of the Q7, the X5, and the GLE Mercedes, they offer bigger engines, V6s. I never felt this car to be underpowered. I didn't. 173 kilowatts and 480 newton meters. Always felt like enough shove. And you've got torque right throughout the rev range. So the car is never really looking for a gear to swap to. It's there. It's always on tap. In fact, a unique characteristic that I haven't really felt that much in diesel cars is, like, if you're twitchy on the accelerator pedal, the car will behave like a petrol car, which I found to be quite interesting. But if you floor it from a standstill, you're going to go nowhere slowly. It is not a performance car, but while you're driving for overtakes, it's more than adequate. Again, touching back to that German competitor thing, the XC90 is a little bit firmer to drive. And I don't mean a deal breaker firmness. It drives very, very supple. The suspension is extremely well damped. It is on air as well. So you can put it into dynamic, you can put it into off-road, and that will raise and lower the suspension. At low speeds, it's a little bit fidgety, but once you get up to highway cruising speed, it just cruises. Very little wind noise, very little tire roar. It is as refined as anything when you're cruising at speed. Around town, you are going to notice those little bumps. But the reward is, I never expected this car to drive so well in the corners. It's not a sports car, but I've driven a lot of SUVs where you chuck it into a corner and it's almost like, oh, hold on, because it just wallows and it leans and it's not great. Put the Volvo XC90 into dynamic and you will be so shocked at how flat it corners. That being said, there is not a lot of feedback through the steering wheel, but why would there be? That was creepy. Why would there be? It is a big Swedish luxury SUV. So in conclusion, on the Volvo XC90, and this is a car that has really surprised me, especially on the space front and the practicality front. You really have a lot of room here. So much room to sit, so much room just to stuff it full of luggage. And all of that carries through to the build quality, to how it drives, to how practical it is. This is a car with the power to surprise. And then again, Volvo's middle name is safety. So you are going to be getting a car which is super safe on the road, a car that is always looking out for you, making sure that you get to where you need to be safely. And flip, it'll even drive you to where you need to be safely. So it's one of those cars where you really need to look at the value for money price at a starting price of just over 1.1 million rand, and then just compare what you get to the German rivals. So it's really, really good with how much it offers. But anyway, guys, that's been the Volvo XC90. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I am going to leave a few links below, okay? One of them will be the spec of this vehicle, so you know exactly what I got to experience, exactly what I'm talking about. There are 3 things which I would urge you guys to spec. Number 1 is the Bowers & Wilkins sound system. It is a must. It seriously is a must. Get it. A panoramic sunroof and possibly air suspension. Possibly. For that dynamic feeling when you go around corners. But if you don't go around corners that much and you don't drive too spiritedly, then it's fine. And I would also urge you guys to go for the T8. Not that the D5 is underpowered, but I have heard that the T8 is a real flippin' screamer. 0 to 105.5 seconds is no joke. And if you could combine this much luxury with that much grunt, then go for it. But yeah, guys, so the links down below will be as I said, the spec of this car, a link to Volvo Configurator South Africa, so you can go and make your own Volvo XC90. And there will also be another link to my Instagram below, so you can see the Volvo XC90 drive itself. But yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like on the video, and if you're new here, subscribe, because there will be a few more videos to come. Actually, there'll be a lot more videos to come.